All right, let's go ahead and finish our example of JavaScript and creating and rendering data and manipulating data uh, in our web page using arrays and JavaScript and custom objects. So let's review where we have. So this is the same example we've been working on for the last couple of lessons. This very straightforward example. It's just a little table. We've got some names, first name, middle name, last name. We've got an option here to come in and add um, additional names and save that. You can hit cancel to open and close that form. You can come in and say edit this, and you can make updates to the rows, and you can delete rows. Okay. So what we want to do is I want to add a filtering button or filtering service here. So what I'm going to do is above the title. We have first name, middle name, last name. Above this title, I'm going to add an input box to each of these fields, to each of these columns. And then I'm going to put a filter button over here. And then when I click the filter button, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to render the rows that match the appropriate filter. So I'll be able to filter by first name, middle name, last name individually, or by all of them if I choose. So let's talk about how to do that. The first thing we need to do is to add the filter boxes. So let's go ahead and create a new row here with three inputs and a button. And so we can come over to our uh, to our to our HTML. We can find, let's see, here's the HTML. We can find the table there. So for simplicity, I'm just going to cut and paste this. And then I'm going to replace here on first name. I'm going to get rid of these because I'm just going to copy and paste. So I'm going to put an input in this box. It's going to be type equals text. It's going to be ID equals filter. And this will be first. We'll just call it filter first. So let's put that in quotes. Okay, so that's going to be our table there. Let's go ahead and put two more in. So this next one will be filter middle, and this will be filter last. And then lastly, I want a button. So we need a button here. The button is going to be called apply filter. So we don't need to name it. We'll just have to, and then we'll say filter names. Okay. All right, so let's save that and see how that looks. Okay, that's all right. These text boxes are not formatted the same as our others. Let's look and see why. It's because we've got the style. We scroll down here, we look for inputs. We're only applying the input formatting to the buttons that are on the name form. So if I just take that out, then then it should apply it to everything. Okay, that makes our form a little too wide. So now our buttons here have rolled between lines, and it's because I have limited the width of this table to some percentage. So let's just make it wider so that those buttons don't stack. And I think that was up here, right here on the wrapper. So let's just make that 80% instead of 60%. Now my buttons are side by side, and I have fields here. And of course, it doesn't do anything because I haven't wired that up into the JavaScript yet. Okay, so now we have that. Let's go ahead and apply some filtering here. So um, what I want to do is whenever I click this filter button, what I want to do is just re-render the table. Okay, but I'm going to add logic to the table to check the value of each of these input boxes, and then before I render the row to see if it matches this. So let's just do one at a time. So the first name is the one we'll do. The filter names, we're going to add logic here into the render table method. So when I click the filter names, all I need to do is just render the table again. So let's go ahead and add that as an on-click event to the button. On-click equals render table. Okay, so now whenever I click that button, it should just re-render the table. Then I'm going to add into here a, a test. I'm going to add an if statement. If meets filters, names at I. So if the name that I'm working with meets the filters, then add the row. Otherwise, don't add the row. Okay? Pretty straightforward, right? So let's see. So now we're going to come in here and add function. See, if I run this now, let's run that. See, I get I get nothing here, and that's because I'm getting an error. So if I look at the inspection and look at the console here, I see that meets filters is not defined. It's because I called that method. I called the method up here in my render table, but I never defined a function. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom and I'm going to add another function. Function meets filters, and it's going to take a name. And let's just go ahead and just return true. This is just a stub at this point. So stubbing means we just do the minimum required to make the function compile and make the function not cause the page to not load. So we save that, we repeat, we reload, and it's still good. We're still not getting anything, still not doing anything because we haven't written the code yet to make it to enforce the filters. But there are no errors. Okay. All right. So now we can say here in the meets filters, what we want to do is we want to say, let's get the first name filter first. So let's say let first equals document dot get element by ID, and the ID is going to be filter first dot values because it's a text box. Now, if I come in here and I put spaces in here, so if I put Bill space, something like that, then I don't want to include the spaces. I don't want to filter on the spaces. I just want to filter on on the letters and the characters that I type there. So I'm going to apply a function here called trim. The trim function will remove all of the blank spaces from the beginning and the end of the value. So if I come in here and I type space, Bill, space, then what's going to happen is it's going to remove these spaces automatically when it applies the filter. Okay. Now it won't remove anything that's in the middle. So if I have a space in the middle of in between characters, that trim is not going to take that out. It's just going to take off spaces at the front and the back of the string. Okay. Now we need to test. Now we need to test to make sure that the filter is one that it should be applied, and we will know it should be applied if first does not have a length of 0. If there's nothing in it, then there's no filter to apply, so we're just going to skip it. If there is something in it, then we want to test to see if it matches the filter. If it doesn't, then we want to tell the render table not to render this method. Okay, but we're going to have multiple filters, so we need to be able to keep track of how many filters failed and passed, so that we can so that we can apply all three filters, not just one. So the first thing we want to do is say, should I even apply this filter? So we're going to say if first, oops, if first dot length um, not equal to 0, then that means I need to apply the filter. Okay. So then I'm going to say if um, name dot first, because I'm testing the name that I sent as a parameter. I'm testing the first name. So if name dot first dot includes first, so if the field if in the name is an object, remember it has three properties: first, middle, last. If the property first in the object name includes the value of this variable first that I picked up from the input box, then great. That's a little confusing. So let's rename that and let's call it first filter, just so it's less confusing. Okay. So that we're not getting confused because we're calling everything first. So if first filter dot length is not equal to 0, then we know that we want to apply the filter. Otherwise, we want to test for the filter. If first filter dot length is equal to 0, then automatically this passes because we know because there's no filter to apply, so we're going to pass it. But if it's not equal to 0, then we know that we need to test the filter. So then we're going to test name.first includes the filter value. So if that is true, then that means we want to that means we want to include the filter. But it gets a little tough because we're going to apply two more. We're going to apply the middle and the last. And so what we really need to do is keep track of how many filters failed rather than how many filters passed. Because if any of the filters fail, then we want to stop. Okay, we don't want to include the value. So what we really want to do is we want to say if not name.include. So if this case so in this case we know that the filter has failed. Okay, in this case we're just going to return false. Okay, because we know at this point that we should not include this because we needed to apply this filter. We applied the filter and it did not work, and so we're just going to return false. So this is if not, we're using the exclamation point there. If not, name first includes first filter, then we know that this uh, does not include the filter. If this passes, meaning, or if this fails, meaning that, I'm sorry, if the filter is applied properly and we do find first filter, then we won't back out here because the filter is passing. Okay. And then at the end, we'll just say return true. And then we're going to come back in here. We're going to add some more options. Okay. I'm just going to do the first name to get started, and we'll come back and see the rest. So now let's reload that. So if I come in here and filter Bill, okay, that's great. If I filter Joe, I get nothing because there isn't any. Okay. And I can just get rid of the filter. I can filter on these other terms. Okay. Now, if I come in here and filter on these, everything's passing, but that's because I haven't done the logic to do this middle name text box filter yet. So let's go ahead and do that. This is really the same approach. Okay. So I'm just going to cut and paste this. I should probably write a function here, but let's not get carried away. There's only two. So we're going to say get the middle, and it's just the same thing. If the middle filter has something in it, then try to apply the filter to the name option, to the name value. If it fails, then return false. And this last one is going to be last filter. Last name dot last equals last filter. Okay. Then we're good. Okay, so now that should work. So we should be filtering on everything. So if I filter Bob here, okay, I get that. If I filter, let's just do it with let's see, filter name. So if I just filter something that starts with a K, it's going to filter that. If I filter an A and a K here, then I get that. If I filter a B and an N in the last name, then I get that. Okay, we should probably add a few additional names here. So let's say like um let's add another Neely so that that's in there. Okay, let's also add let's add uh let's add somebody else with the middle name of David. So let's add Joseph David Phelps. Just make up some names. Okay, so now if I filter here on David, then we get two options. If I filter here on starts with A and has David, then we don't. Oh, that should have passed. Okay, so we've got a problem there. Okay, so we take that out. Okay, why did that fail? So, well, oh, it was lowercase a. That's why. See, lowercase a is not the same as uppercase a. That's why it failed. Maybe we should fix that. Okay. Okay, so see what happened there is I typed in lowercase a. There is no lowercase a in any of the first names. It's only uppercase. Okay, any of the David names. So if I put an uppercase, then it filters correctly, but if I put in a lowercase, it doesn't. But probably it should filter case insensitive on this. So what we can do is we can just apply, what we want to do is we want to apply a case insensitive match. So what we can do is we can say if first filter, we can say, we can do a two upper here. So let's see, the two upper is it's two uppercase actually. So what we want to do there is we want to so what we're going to do is to get rid of case insensitive matching. What we'll do is we'll force everything to be either uppercase or lowercase. So we'll take the filter value and force it to be uppercase, and then we'll take the first name value and force it to be uppercase. We don't want to permanently change that. We just want to um, uh, we don't want to change the name value. We just want to change it temporarily when we're testing it. So what we can do here is we can say to uppercase comes after the trim. So we'll just say to uppercase like that. So now what I have is I get document, I get element by ID. I get the val, I get this gets me the text box. I then take the value out of the text box. I trim out the spaces and I convert it to uppercase. So I'm just stringing all these functions together. That means that first filter is now always going to be uppercase. Everything in there is going to be uppercase. Then I can do the same here on name.first. If name.first dot to uppercase dot includes. Now I need to do the to uppercase here before I test the includes because I want to test all uppercase first name compared to the others. Now I'm going to have to do that in all of the fields, but let's make sure that it works first. Oh, I got an error. It says to uppercase is not a function, and it's because I misspelled uppercase. That should be uh, lowercase t, uppercase u, uppercase c. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that. I made the mistake here. Refresh that. Okay, so here we are again. So now if I click, um, if I do an uppercase L here, before that wouldn't have matched these, right? Well, let's do the A. So lowercase a, okay, I'm still matching. Uppercase A, I'm still matching. Okay, it still doesn't work here though on, let's see, let's do lower an uppercase V. Okay, I'm still not matching this because I haven't done the two uppercase on that field yet. Okay, so we know that works. So let's go ahead and add that here to uppercase. And then here we're going to do to uppercase. Okay. And then we're going to do to uppercase. That includes. Okay. So this should work. Now I might have to do other things here. If one of these values were numeric, so let's say that my name had a zip code in it. Zip code is a numeric value. I won't be able to do an includes because there is no includes on a numeric data type. So if it determines that name.zip code is a number, the includes function is going to work because the includes only applies to string values or the uppercase for that matter. So what I would need to do in that case is I might need to convert my value to string. Okay, so I could do this if in case in the event that now I'm not going to leave this in here, but say this was name.zip code, um, right, like that. And zip code is a numeric value. Before I can do an uppercase and includes on it, I have to convert that value to a string. Okay, so this would require me to manipulate that in order to do the includes testing. Okay, but name.last is not a numeric value, so I'm going to take that out. Okay, let's see if that works. Let's go ahead and add some new names. Let's add another David. Okay, and let's add Smith. Okay, let's add another name. Let's add a name here that is uh, let's add Davis instead of David. Okay, we'll get some, and we can show how we can match parcel names here as well. Let's go ahead and name him Smith too. Okay, so now we can say, show me anybody that has a J on their first name. Okay, here are those two. Show me anybody that has Dave. See, notice how it's all case insensitive, so it doesn't matter if I type this in. But then I can say, only show me the Davids. Okay, or the Davis. Okay, show me the Smiths. Show me anybody that has an N in their last name. Show me anybody that has an S in their last name. Okay, so all these match. Okay, all right, I think that's got it. So that is how we can apply editing and search, editing, or I'm sorry, search and filtering options on our lists and our tables so that, say we have a list of all these names and we want to just look up one in particular, then we can just type in part or all of the name here and begin searching. And we can do that with any field, name, last name, phone numbers, zip codes, company names, whatever we want. Okay. All right. So that is the lesson for this. This is the conclusion of this example in our course. So this is the last time we'll be working on this particular problem. So I hope this helps, and I hope that you've learned everything you need here in order to complete your assignment for the week.